All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford and what Tim Bradley has to say about the deal. Makes a very, very good point. Since he's close to Terence Crawford, not sure if he's saying that this is going to be the case, but I hope that he's right about a 3-fight deal between the two of them. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about the biggest fight in boxing, Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford, and what the great commentator, former welterweight champion, former 140-pound champion, Tim Bradley has to say about it. But before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to subscribe. Hit that bell icon so that you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, if you are a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you for continuing to support the channel through this boxing drought we have going on. But you know what it is. We keep it boxing. We keep it on. We keep the conversation going. So here we go with another one. Tim Bradley was interviewed about the Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford fight, and he has something very interesting to say, something that I had heard would be the case, or that, shall I say, rumors had been spreading over the last maybe 4 or 5 months about the potential of the fight being more than one fight, and it being either a 2-fight situation or a 3-fight situation. And Tim Bradley says that that's what he believes is going to be the case, and that he believes both fighters have rematch clauses because neither one of those guys are stupid. Now, I had done a video maybe about 3 weeks ago where I shared some information that is out there. Now, is the information 100% true or not? You do not know, right? And again, I always tell people, look, we are chopping it up about boxing. We are talking about boxing. I've got over 100,000 subscribers between different platforms. So you get a lot of different contacts, meet a lot of different people that tell you things about what they hear is going on, right? Some things hit the nail on the head. Other things could hit the nail on the head, but then, hey, man, the people change their mind and they go a different direction, what have you. So please do not get all up in a bunch about information like this. At the end of the day, we're either going to see the fight or we're not going to see the fight. But we do boxing talk here, so don't get mad at people for talking boxing when they love to talk about boxing. In this particular instance, I think that this is something that is almost something you could see, which would be that Errol Spence and Terence Crawford would both have rematch clauses in their contract, or at least Errol Spence Jr. would have a rematch clause in the contract. And if Errol Spence Jr. introduces a rematch clause in the contract, so is Terence Crawford, right? And gonna say, all right, look, if I lose, I want to be able to chance to get this again. Now, why would you want that? First, more than likely, this is going to be a close fight, a good competitive fight, right? And you're going to want to, and if it's that way, people are going to want to see it more than one time. And the loser doesn't want to go off and not have an opportunity to get those belts back and just be left sitting there, right? Especially if you're on the PBC side and you're bringing Terence Crawford onto your channel and you don't have an option on him for another fight. No, that's not going to make a lot of sense for them. Those guys are going to try to have that in there. And if Errol Spence Jr.'s side is going to try to get that, then Terence Crawford is going to say, hey, man, what's fair is fair. I'm a champion as well. You got to slide that in there. But more importantly than just that, or along with that, is also the notion of how much money can be made and generated in the fight, right? Now, if you look at what happened with the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury fight, those fights over the first fight was big, but the second fight was bigger. And the second fight was big, but that third fight was just as big as the second fight. They actually got bigger in the second and the third fights than they did just doing it one time. So if Showtime's going to invest the money, a larger guarantee like what had been said that Terence Crawford wants, if they're going to do that, then they will very well want to carry that fight over a good amount of time. Also, you have the fact that at 147 pounds, at 154 pounds, there's not a lot of other matchups over there, man. So you can wind up having a situation where everybody involved makes a lot of money, no matter how that stuff comes out when you do the fight 2 times, you do that fight 3 times. And I have a suspicion that I'm not one of these guys that believe that, Terence Crawford is going to walk in there and he's just going to that there's some big gigantic gap in what Errol Spence Jr. is doing that is just going to allow him to hit him with a counter hook, and then he's going to be out of there. And that's just going to happen the same way it happened in the last several fights for Terence Crawford. First of all, I still maintain, and I think Terence Crawford would even say that if Terence Crawford was being just 100% honest. None of those guys are Errol Spence level fighters, but none of those guys were really in a situation where they felt like they were going in there to win that fight, that they were in the best situation, coming off, like a really good situation for those guys to win that fight. The only guy I would say, since Terence Crawford has been at 147, that was in that situation, you might be able to say is Jeff Horn. And really, Jeff Horn got his eye opened up by Gary Cochran the fight before that, and got his eye opened up nasty the fight before that with Manny Pacquiao when he was fortunate enough to win that. But Jose Benavidez, Amir Khan, maybe you could say definitely not Kell Brook. Maybe you could say Igis Kalvanakis, because Igis Kalvanakis was the mandatory, but none of those guys were somebody, or definitely not Sean Porter. Sean Porter had a loss, and then he had a fight where he didn't even look very good, and then he came back and it just he already knew that he was retiring before the fight started. Just really is not that level of guy, or at least if they were that level of guy, their mindsets and where they were in their career was not a peak point in their career. And it is just, it's reasonable. Also, same thing for Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. Errol Spence Jr. had beaten other guys that were holding their championships, right? But were they guys that were an undisputed champion at 140 and top of the pound for pound list with a lot of real faith and belief in themselves? Probably not at the level of that Terence Crawford is. So, these guys are going to be fighting, and they're going to be in a unique situation of really being in there with somebody that is a Hall of Fame level fighter at a Hall of Fame level point in their career. And in that particular circumstance, man, I think you're going to see a fight that could go either way. And if it goes to a decision, and Errol Spence gets it, there's going to be people saying, no, Terence Crawford won the fight. So there'll be a lot more talk about it, and they'll sell the fight, and it'll help grow the fight and build a presence for even a bigger fight the second time around, right? And because that's what happened with Errol. That's what happened with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, and it got both of those guys up to where they were making $30 million a fight each. Easily could be the same situation for Errol and Terence Crawford if they make this thing a multi-fight deal and pretty much make it the thing that really plays out and defines their career. That's what I expect to see, and that's what Tim Bradley says that he expects to see, and I think that it could be very, very right in that regard. But anyway, that's my take on the circumstance. You let me know what you think in the comment section, and with that, I'm out. Deuces.